Hey guys, welcome in this new video. I hope that all of you are doing great. In today's video, we are continuing on the trade breakdown series with a trade that I took last week on NZDUSD. Before we start, as always, if you are not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. I would truly appreciate it, and that way you are sure to not miss any new videos coming up. Alright, so as I said today, we will take a look at a trade that I closed on NZDUSD actually yesterday night. So here's the profit that I made. If you guys follow me on Instagram, well, you saw all the evolution of that trade because I posted screenshots and, just following up the trade with you guys on Instagram many times. So if you don't already follow me on Instagram, well, make sure you do that just right here. So that trade could either have been a short-term trade or a long-term trade, depending on how the trade evolved after taking it. Now, if I took it last week and I closed it today, it means that it ended up being a short-term trade. Now, there are many reasons for that, and we will see them when we jump on the chart, but that was a short-term trade. Even if there had a possibility of being a long-term trade, well, this is not what happened, and it ended up being a short-term trade. So if you guys would love to learn how to trade, work with me directly, and also join our trading group, make sure you check out the first link in the description box below. It will bring you over to my website, which is my trading course, and there you will find all the information on how it works and how you can join us. Alright, so let's jump on the chart, take a look at this trade, and we will see, as always, everything that you guys need to know about the trade that I can actually share with you, because you guys know that I also need to keep a lot of things for my students, but here in those YouTube videos I try to give you guys the general idea of the trade so that you can still learn a lot from them. Alright, so we are now on my chart. Let's take a look at this NZD-USD trade. As always, I will start with showing you guys the overall view of the market, the entry, the stop, the target, and then how the trade evolved after taking it. So let's start on the higher time frame. Let's go on the daily. So you see on the daily that we have basically two main possibilities. Now, I'll not go over in details of what type of pattern is actually in the making and all the scenarios that are possible, but I'll show you guys the two main scenarios that we have. So the two main scenarios that we have is that on the long term, we either see one more down here or that we see one more up here before the downside. Those are the two main possibilities that I'm looking for. So I knew that eventually the downside was coming, and I was just waiting for a sell setup to actually get within the trade. Now, when we go on the lower time frame, this is where we will see the sell setups and how everything played out. So we first of all have to notice something very important. We have an impulse, we have a correction, and that means that we were expecting one more down. Now, this downside had many places where it could stop. The first one was around those levels here. The other one was breaking this low, and the other one was, as I showed on the daily, much lower. So these were the three places that I was looking to actually take profit. So that's basically the targets that I had. And I was just waiting, well, as always, to see how the markets actually play out when they arrive at those levels. Just to make it clear as well, the levels that I'm showing now are not support or resistance, right? That's not something that I trade according to. That's not even something that I'm looking on the chart. So these are not supports or resistance or any kind of these things. I trade completely differently than that with another view of the market. Anyway, so let's actually continue on what I was talking about. So I knew that this downside was eventually coming with those different targets that I had. So that means that I just waited for a sell setup on the lower time frame, which we will go on now and see. So you see here that basically it was early last week, that we actually got this impulse. We got this correction, and when we broke out of the correction on the lower time frame, I had a trade setup to actually get right into the trade. Now, that was the entry, as you can see here. The initial stop loss was above the top. Now, there is a very specific reason of why that is, and not, for example, above this one. I'll not go into those details, but that's really important to make sure it's clear. And that's a mistake that I often see online of what people are doing, is that they want to have such a big risk-reward ratio that they end up placing their stop loss way too close to the entry level. So it doesn't even give the trade rooms to actually develop and see what type of pattern is actually making if it's not going in the initial direction that you wanted it to go. So it's a big mistake, and you see on my trades now, if you watch oftentimes the trade breakdown videos, that my stops are not that close to the entry, and that's one of the reasons why. But it's very important to not just place your stop like so close to the entry, like 10 pips or like 20 pips. Usually that type of stop loss don't really work unless you are a very short-term trader, basically. So that was the stop. That was the entry. The stop was there. The target, well, I showed you guys earlier, and after that I just waited to see how it was actually developing after taking the trade. So that was the entry. After that, we got a very nice and aggressive down move right here. The first place I moved my stop was above those levels when we were at, I think, around those levels here, and then I moved it to here, and then I moved it to here. Now we made this small correction. We got another drop. That was irrelevant because it's way too small of a correction. We got a bigger one right here, and then what we got is this impulse downside breaking out of the correction. Now, when we broke out of the correction, I started being very careful with this trade, and that is when I moved my stop above this level. The reason why is because, as I showed you guys before, we were around the levels of my first potential target, meaning that from here, the market could reverse. And I was looking at a potential reversal or just more downside, depending on what, just way that the market wanted to go. Now, yesterday night, we were making this, structure that was initially looking like a correction. Now it's not a correction anymore, so I can just remove this. But that was actually looking like a correction. Now, we had a important news, which was the interest rate of the New Zealand dollar, which is this big spike up that you see here. That was yesterday night during the news event. And I had basically two possibilities during the news. Either close the trade before the news, which is not something that I do very often, but that's more of like my strategy. Some traders prefer to close their trade before the news drop, or others prefer to wait a little bit after the news to see how the markets react. Personally, I prefer to wait a little bit, but like I said, that's just my style. So I waited for the news to drop, and we had two possibilities. Either, as I said, that this was a correction for more downside after that, or that it would simply reverse and go back up, because there is a possibility as well on the higher time frame for more upside right now, and that is probably what is actually happening, or the start of a bigger correction. So when I saw that this was actually taking off to the upside and breaking out of the top of the correction, well, it simply hit my stop loss. And if you guys go back in the videos and see where I showed you guys the profits that I made, you will see that on the left side of the screenshot, you'll see that there's like a little red bar. And so that bar is there basically because the trade ended up as taking me out with my stop loss, which was right here. So overall, I made a pretty good profit. If I remember correctly, I think it was 3.3%. So that was a pretty good trade, actually. So that was the, what I just showed. That was basically the profit, like on the chart, basically. So that's pretty much it for the trade breakdown. That was not a really complex entry or even sell setup. Those are pretty great setups that I trade. Now, like I said, there are many other things involved in my trading. Here, I'm just showing you guys, as I said, the general view of the market, and I'm trying to make it a little more simple for the people who don't have a lot of experience, so that they can still understand, the general idea. But it's a lot more complicated than what it looks like, and that's also important to understand, right? Trading is not like, you just don't watch like few videos of trading and then you become such a great and profitable trader, right? It takes a lot more work and effort to actually become good. So I just wanted to make that here as well. But basically, we saw the overall view of the market, the different scenarios that we have, the entry, the stop, the target, and how the trade evolved after taking it. So that was the trade breakdown for NZDUSD. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching once again. I hope that you like it and that you learned something from it. If you did, please share the video around with another trader. I would truly appreciate it, because if it helped you, then it's likely going to help another person. All right? So on that, thank you for watching. Take care, trade with care, manage your money well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.